Good morning, and today I am happy to interview Professor V Rao at the IIM Ahmedabad campus for the ISABS Heritage Project. TV, thank you so much for agreeing to this and being here. I'm lucky to have been able to catch you.
Thank you. Well, it's nice of you, and it's very good of ISABS to think of such a project. This is one of the things I wanted to do about 10 years ago, much before many of our colleagues disappeared.
Okay.
But unfortunately, first I approached ISABS and there was cold feet. Then AMA, there was cold feet, and Academy of HRD, cold feet. So I wanted to do it myself, but then I somehow thought it's better than institution does it and so on. Because most of these, whether you are in IIMs or ISABS or HRD network or any of these are all people with very similar thinking and so on.
That's true.
So
yes.
I'm very happy and I congratulate you all in ISABS for initiating such a project when still some of us are alive.
Thank you, thank you. So, can we begin by, if you could talk a little about your own journey in ISABS, how you began, how you came in, what the initial was like, how ISABS has contributed to you as an individual?
Yeah. Well, let me first start with my acquaintance with the people who formed ISABS. My first lab was in the National Institute of Health Administration in the year 1969, when Suresh Srivastava, Sujit Bhattacharya, then Somnath Chittopadhyay and Uday conducted a lab for the faculty as well as research staff and others. So I joined the one for the younger faculty and research staff. I had the good fortune of meeting Suresh, but never had an opportunity to participate in his lab. Sujit was staying with me actually.
I see. Okay.
In Delhi. Somnath was just came back from Hyderabad to Delhi and so on. So my first lab was a mixture of structured kind of a lab as well as unstructured, which I think Uday did. I think he brought in a little bit of achievement motivation and so on.
Okay.
The most memorable part of that lab is in those days, 1969, writing our obituaries.
Oh my gosh. So
because I think he was driving what you want to become, what you want to be, and so on.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I heard later that the faculty labs ran into problems because it increased the distance between some of the faculty. But it did a lot of good for other people. They got them closer. Of course, I knew Somnath, and of course Uday, I was corresponding with him much before he returned to India. I wanted to do my PhD at North Carolina. Then when I wrote to him, he wrote back saying he's already leaving and therefore he can't. Then he wrote letters to Rensis Lickert and so many other people. Lickert I remember because Lickert replied and wanted me to apply. It didn't work out because I applied to Michigan State University, not knowing the difference between University of Michigan and Michigan State. That was the level of ignorance in those days.
Yeah.
But I was happy to come and join Uday, and then we were I joined as a research associate in the project. I must mention the project because the project was on impact of feedback on teacher behavior.
I see. Okay. And this was with Uday.
This was with Uday. I think he returned from. It's a health institute, therefore they were interested in mental health. So this is a very remarkable project in the sense we studied the classroom behavior of teachers.
Okay.
The impact on the children, and later gave a feedback on to them, calling for a lab kind of a program. We never called it a lab. It's a 3-day program where we taught them what to direct influence, indirect influence.
I see.
And calculated ratios and gave them the percentage of directive influence and the non-directive influence. And followed up 6 months later to see the impact of the program on their behavior and found a lot of changes. And then we were also measuring what happens to the students. We were measuring the impact on student initiatives and so on. And we found that directive teachers have very good influence in terms of academic achievement.
Okay.
But they don't have that sort of an influence in terms of initiative. And non-directive teachers, while they didn't do well in academics, have done a marvelous job in terms of creating people with initiative and so on.
Interesting, very interesting. Yes.
This is significant in the sense that I think a lot of what we do in ISABS is based on behavior and change.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And indirect influence. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So I got socialized into this thinking, although I'm a master's in psychology, did program research and a whole lot of things. So as soon as, I think 6 months after I joined the institute on this project, I got a job in the same institute as assistant professor. So I had to work there for outside Udai's department. And set up a new department. Then Udai, I only knew one day Udai was asked to conduct a student lab in Mount Abu. And Udai and President Mehta went to Mount Abu.
Okay.
And that much I know, they were going to Abu, but later when they came back, they got excited, and Udai almost resigned to go a few months later to go to Udaipur University, saying that he developed a large number of students and they influenced him to go and set up the psychology department.
I see. Okay.
So
in Udaipur University.
In Udaipur University. I mean, that is when I came to know these students were good leaders, and some of them rebel leaders. And they conducted a motivational lab in Mount Abu. And they were so influenced by this, they said that, look, we want professors like you and you must come to the university. So he was going there to, as they call in those days, second Pro-Vice Chancellor, but Director of School of Basic Science and Humanities. And he said he'll set up the department. So he asked me if I'm willing to go there.
Okay, so, and so you went
I moved to Udaipur, although I was at a much higher, I was assistant professor, I went as a lecturer. I didn't even think of that.
Because you were working.
It was nice, I mean, working, set up a psychology department and other kind of things. Now all this has a history, because that was the time Manohar Nadkarni returned from US and he was in Delhi.
Okay.
And they started Uday, Manohar, President Mehta, Somnath Chattopadhyay, Jay Moja, all these are people associated with ISABS. They started a behavioral science center, which was doing a lot of lab work as well as OD. Abad also joined them.
And this was in Udaipur?
This was in Delhi.
Oh, this was in Delhi?
This was in Delhi. They were doing all this kind of. So the organization development in health system started in Delhi. That is with Abad, Somnath, Uday, and they involved me, Manohar Nadkarni, through the behavioral center and Nihai to do a OD program with Holy Family Hospital.
Okay.
Holy Family. That was a remarkable thing. Then Uday and others got involved with MMS Sisters, and then they started conducting labs.
So this is all pre-ISABS?
These are all pre-ISABS. What was happening, the time I came to Udaipur, we used to work very closely with Uday, and either Nadkarni was visiting and talking about forming a body, or Uday was going to Pune and talking with Francis Manijas to form a body. So I was all the time curious. I wanted to know what is going on. But Uday would say, no, Venkatesh, you will get to know, don't worry. So he was not all that, they were busy conceptualizing. This is the year 1971.
Okay.
They were conceptualizing this, and I think it is only when I joined IIM, that is 2 years later, that in 1973 I joined. Uday also moved in 72.
Okay.
And
so he joined IIM in 72. Okay.
And I joined here in 73. So that is when I came to know that there is this body, and Dharani Sinha is the executive director of this body. Pulen Garg is the dean, and they keep running programs already, trying to train the trainers. They just started. I think 73 may have been the first batch.
And it was called ISABS?
It was registered already, 71 or 72. Indian Society for Applied Behaioural Sciences registered and started running programs. So this can't escape our attention because in wing number 12, that is where here in this I am, wing number 12 is filled with activity, where Udai's office, next to Udai was Pulingal, and and after some time opposite to them was mine. After some time, of course, Somnath also joined, and later when Indira became faculty, she was also there. So I think a lot of activity.
So all the ISABS
people were in wing
all
number 12. Wing number 12. That is between 75 and 78, about 3 years. I went through by that time maybe quite a few labs. First thing I went through Pulin's sensitivity camp.
Okay.
Now they said sensitivity camp is different than the usual in those days, the T group training that we conduct, because Pulin will take about 40 to 50 people and put them all in a hall, and then they will share their lives and all that. So I was very curious. First thing I did in 73 December was to attend his camp.
Okay. And before that you'd already done
I had already done a T group lab. I have done, I think, one of course in this place, and we were conducting achievement motivation labs. And a lot of structured experiences we were using. That is because when you are working with someone like Uday, we were extensively using Philo-B. MBTI was not popular in those days, it has not even come into existence. Social reaction inventory, locus of control, all these kind of things. In fact, I floated a course called Laboratory in Entrepreneurial Motivation in 74. As soon as I came here, that is one I started. With structured experiences in the class to discover your entrepreneurial potential and things like that. So that used lab methodology, but not unstructured, no unstructured. Unstructured, my unstructured exposure was in Nihai. Later when I joined, Uday said that, look, why don't you, the institute also, we thought that we all should. So Indira and I were in the same batch. Indira already completed first phase. She came to second phase. Because of my experience and whatever background is there, then they admitted me into the second phase directly. So that is my first systematic exposure to ISABS.
Okay, so that, and was that your first?
1974, summer.
Okay. And was that also your first experience to a fully unstructured process?
No, I'm fully unstructured if you don't count the Nihai experience, which was,
what was the Nihai?
Nations of Health Administration, which was conducted by Uday, Sujit Bhattacharya and others. It is, it had, I would say, 70 to 80% of unstructured.
Okay.
And actually maybe it's all unstructured. Now, in those days we didn't even differentiate what is unstructured. But ISABS is totally unstructured in the sense that it is chaotic. You decide your agenda. You decide your agenda.
Yes.
I mean, I've read about all of it in T group and other kind of a thing. So it was not anything of news to me. But joining the second phase with Oriel Pujal, Indira Parik, Ivan Mathias, then one Satyanarayana was there. I don't know what happened to all of them. Ivan continued. So this was our first batch, and our seniors were Arun Joshi and T. That means one year.
So who all were there in that batch?
Arun also was coming. Arun was in our, not in our batch. I think he was probably doing this, the last phase. Phase 3 was internship kind of.
I see. Okay.
So Arun was there. All of them were there for all 3 weeks. But we witnessed.
So this was 3 weeks long.
This was 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks they were there. But this was followed by a IIM's program on role stress. A laboratory on role stress and management in our ISABS programs used to be in Harsha Hotel in Bangalore. Normally they used to be in Harsha Hotel because Balaji was a Pulin's student, or IIM student, and he offered at very concessional rates.
Okay.
So it was there we used to run most of the ISABS summer programs, including internship, and had a BHPH, what we call now as BHPHP. I think in those days there were phase 1, phase 2, before phase 1 a qualifying kind of a lab. That is what you do. So we had all of it in Harsha. This was followed by a role stress lab. It was a lab. We all went to Chennai from there. Facilitators were Somnath and Uday. By the time Somnath has not yet joined IIM, he was being invited to join. He continued in Delhi. Pulin, Uday, Somnath, these are the three full-time trainers.
Okay.
And Indira and I were co-trainers. We were taken as co-trainers. So that was another unstructured experience, seeing these chaps in operation. Whereas when you are in a internship lab, you are processing your own life.
Yes.
You don't observe it.
Yeah.
But for the first time I observed different styles. I observed typical NTL style of Udaipari, where he would just keep quiet and then sit for long hours of silence and would let people decide. And Somnath also will do the same thing, except I think I found the difference between Uday and Somnath was Somnath will make a little long reflective observations.
Okay.
Uday will simply bounce it back. A lot of mirroring Uday will do. Will not intervene, and that is the way I experienced at that time. Pulin will be a lot more directive, will get into your life goals. It's only much later I understood, I'm not very sure if Pulin ever went through NTL.
I don't
but
know.
he is a psychodrama specialist. And therefore I think he had, in those days we didn't even know. We only knew that Pulin would like to focus on the individual, his life, his relationships, society and so on. Whereas Uday and Somnath will focus on here and now and what your feelings, you bring out your feelings, share your feelings, those kind of things. Now Pulin will not. I mean, Pulin will less talk of feelings, will talk of your identity and things of that nature. So that is when I observed the style differences. But it didn't really mean much for us because we are all learning. I am also learning and so on. And that is my initiation into ISABS, and I must say that perhaps is the first and last systematic long term as a student of ISABS. Later on we became a facilitator. Because the next phase, which is your graduating, which is supposed to be my graduating phase, I didn't go. As I was conducting, I was actually in Javaja. Javaja is the place where Ravi Matthai and all of us started a lot of rural development activity, actually linking education with. And Ravi used to exactly do what probably we do in a lab.
I see.
He will give feedback, he will talk of here and now. I mean, he will never use these words, but he will try to influence the behavior of people, pointing out the impact of some of their behaviors and so on. And then I said that, look, Ravi, I am learning a lot about whatever they are going to teach me in the ISABS here. I would rather prefer to be here and learn about the human process than to. I was already a professor here, but I was very interested in this, and of course Ravi said, no, don't do that. I mean, I still remember his advice. You should get your certification. If you get your certification, it is like loading your gun. It is your choice whether you want to use the gun or not, but go for it. I don't think I followed his advice. I continued to be there. As a result, I missed the second phase, and therefore it took some time for ISABS to admit me as a professional member.
Okay, so how did they admit you finally as a
professional
member?
No, I had to write papers, then I had to justify. Again, I went for pull-and sensitivity camp. So if you look at, I went through maybe two sensitivity camps, 3-4 labs, and one program of a 2-week program of ISABS, and I was conducting here labs myself.
For the students?
For the students, I was joining as a co-trainer with Pulin. Pulin and both me and Indira were in all the labs that Pulin was doing. We were joining, and later Somnath also came. Both of us were joining the labs. So I think I must have written a paper about justifying all the labs. I must have done about 7-8 labs by the time, largely unstructured ones. So I think that is when they said, yeah, you don't need to, you have done so much work. This is one advantage of all education institutions which are running programs like what you are doing now. If there is a faculty here, they join you and then they co-facilitate or they go through like what Kirti is doing. I think you have phenomenal opportunity.
That is true. That is true. Yes.
So that is how I got inducted into ISABS. But I must tell you one thing. I kept a reasonably good distance from ISABS after that.
I see. And why was that?
Yeah, the reason is this. I must say, one is, I think all ISABS was done by IIM Calcutta. Dardisana was there, and Nitish Dev was there. Later Nitish became the NLI director. And Suresh, I think, left already by the time to states. In fact, when I was offered a job in National Institute of Health Administration, Suresh also offered me a job in IIM Calcutta to work with him. But I prefer to work with Uday. So that is how I came here, came to Delhi. So the reason here is, I used to observe. Now you have Pulin, who later became executive director. Somnath is the dean, and Uday, of course, is no office bearer. He is one of the founders and so on. And for some reason, in IIM community here, OB faculty are known as people who fight among themselves most of the time.
Okay.
And I used to feel a little unhappy whenever faculty commented on OB area. Saying that what kind of interpersonal competence will you fellows teach? You are all the time fighting. And Pulin would shout quite a bit anyway. And you have.
I met him. I was in one ISISD event where he was there. He was not my facilitator, but he was part of the community. So
that is his nature. He will not tolerate anything nonsense. I still remember when we were going from ISABS program in Bangalore to Chennai, we were going by train. I think somebody occupied his seat and not being very cooperative. He wanted to physically throw the fellow out and made a big ruckus and all that. It was a huge, and I was very embarrassed. How can I am professor do this? But that is Pulin. Very intense kind of a person. Pulin was. So I used to teach here interpersonal competence in the class. And I had always this dissonance that, look, if I am teaching something, I should live by that.
Right.
I cannot be doing something opposite to what I teach. And when people ask me that, look, you fellows fight, what kind of OB people you are, I think, is this what we learn? So I use it to subscribe to interpersonal sensitivity to control your emotions. Whereas the ISABSians, some of them, I assume, or maybe all of them, I can't say, believed a lot in the expression of feelings. And that I thought is something doesn't gel with me. You express your feelings, but express your feelings in a lab is one thing. Express your feelings in the outside community is another thing. In a lab, you have an opportunity to sort out in the rest of life. If you are looking at it, other people don't understand you. You express your feeling, and then after that you leave the other fellow to have the impact of your feelings. He has to deal with it. What are you doing to them?
Right.
These are all issues. It's not that there are. I'm sure we have answers for all. So I kept a little away, in the sense I would participate at best maybe in one or two labs here and there, but I was participating here within the community here. And
so within IIM Ahmedabad, you still...
I was, yes. And they're all my good friends and colleagues now. And we did a lot of structured experiences here. I floated a program called Laboratory in Management of Motivation. Many innovative programs, laboratory and entrepreneurship was going on. So many of these things were happening, and therefore there was no need for going to ISABS. If you go to ISABS, you are either a facilitator. I don't even remember whether I have gone for. When they asked me, why don't you come for it, I think this was after we started the HRD network. I said, I will run a HRD facilitators lab. If I have to do it, I will do it for facilitators. So I believe very much in that.
But PV, you were also president of
that is much later.
That's much later.
Then we went to, then I went to Uday, Somnath and Rolf Linton was there in Indonesia. We worked there together on a project. I think there were Michael Merrill, Alexandra Merrill, I don't know.
I know Alexandra. I know Alexandra.
Alexandra was not doing anything. Michael, she was accompanying Michael. Michael was a part of the team. I was a part of the team. Somnath was a part of the team. Michael introduced MBTI to all of us. She said, how well do we work as a team? We did a lot of work at that point. Now all this doesn't have much to do with ISABS, but as soon as we returned, and then I was attending, and I always felt comfortable with structured experiences.
Okay.
In the sense that I believed in unstructured experience, but I always believed it should be combined with, to the extent possible, structured experiences so that you can multiply it out. It's not that I definitely value the T group very much, there is no question at all.
Okay.
And certainly like Somnath's style, and I'm a strong believer on in terms of the typical NTL T group kind of. I have experienced that. Either Sujit Bhattacharya or K.J. Christopher in those days from C.H. Institute. Manohar always went to not a typical T group training, and Francis Meneges moved on to dreams and other kind of things. Prague Mehta used to be, all these are ISABS people.
Yeah. All these are names I have heard.
All ISABS people.
Yes.
But whenever they try to bring in something other than unstructured or semi-structured kind of things, there was phenomenal resistance in ISABS. The year I went in 1974, in Harsha Hotel, a big fight was there between Pulin and some of the people who tried to bring in TA, transaction analysis. So Pulin took their stand that don't bring all these kind of interventions.
I see.
Don't dilute the. Other people said that you are an applied behavioral scientist and you need to be learning about all that is happening. How can you resist these? And I think it was quite a fight in the community, 2-day conference or community session that we had, and things like that. So I think I have a feeling this difference of opinion in terms of approach continued, and I have a feeling that is what also led to the split.
The ISABS and ISIST.
It's because there is a school of thought which focused on individual identity, social development and things of that kind. Another school which focuses on here and now, getting in touch with your inner feelings, stop expressing feelings and so on. So I suppose there was, and then there were large number of followers of
both of these,
there were a lot much more of Pulin, because I think it touches you when you are examining your own life. And it is more realistic. Lab, okay, you have, it also is useful and things like that. But I think there were other politics. I was only uncomfortable that fellows should fight and come to the point that you split yourself and things like that. That felt, you felt not so good about it. But anyway, you are not involved. So since you are not involved, you didn't really, it's okay. I'm not emotionally involved in those days in ISABS. But very much with the people who are involved with.
But then you're part of IIMA, and Pulin and Uday were both.
We're all part
you're all colleagues here, and then this split happened.
Yeah, I know. I think by the time Uday left already, Uday 82, Uday left for 83. He left for Indonesia, and I left for 82. I think I left for XLR. The split happened sometime in 79 or 80, around 80 or 81. Then Purnima became after Pulin. Manohar was the. I think one of the reasons also was Manohar becoming the president. I think maybe that Pulin probably would have wanted to continue, or somebody else he wanted. I don't know what happened after this. After Manohar was Purnima, that was the time when the split took place. Purnima Sinha's time, split took place, I am told, and then those things I only hear say. I was not a part of. Even if I was not taking active part in this. I was simply a uninvolved observer of what is happening, because I am close to these chaps. And we would not discuss ISABS so much too. I only used to see Somnath spend enormous amounts of his time with interns, looking at their logs, and same thing which Pulin did. To me, in my view, ISABS was the second life for them. One life is IIM. Sometimes, in fact, the first life is ISABS, and then the second life is IIM. Also true for Dharni. So they were totally devoted to. Now, this is one of the things I feel today. Institutions provided a great base for ISABS in the earlier years, which is also true with HRD network. But I will not talk of network. ISABS, therefore, I am Calcutta, stalwarts were there. I am Ahmedabad, stalwarts were here. Started in SIT Institute, TMTC, I think again some Francis and team were there. So see, these institutions provided phenomenal base for the professional body to prosper and train a large number of people. There was a newsletter, there was a book written by Dharani, which was published much later. And there was professionalism, there was writing, there was sharing. Documentation was good. If you don't write your diary when you go through a BHP or something, then you have not done your work. And that is what you said today. I don't know how much of
No, it actually, I think that is the part that has still remained, the writing the logs when you are part of the professional development program. That is something which is a must. But you know, what I'm wondering is listening to you that, and you're saying that, you know, in the institutions really created ISABS, and all the experimentation that was happening, and you know, there wasn't so much focus on just doing structured, unstructured, but there were other things that were possible.
Sharing, conferences.
Yes. And so, whereas the ISABS that I know of today, there isn't really that much of experimentation that happens. And I am wondering whether, and just a hypothesis, that is it that because today there are actually very few academicians there? It's more consultant.
That is the most unfortunate part of it, if it happens, because mind you, for ISABSians, ISABS is a professional body. Where does your professional knowledge get generated? Not in ISABS. Let us be very clear on that. It gets generated to some extent in ISABS. A large part of it gets generated in academic institutions. Go back to the US, a large part of all great work done got generated in academic institutions. Either from Kurt Lewin and others, University of Michigan, or Ed Sheen, who was the first trainer of Uday. Uday was in 1960 in Ed Sheen's lab. He was the trainer, and this is what I learned later, because recently when I listened to Ed Sheen, he was talking about Uday Pari and so on. So the academic institution, so I go through ISABS, and it's a forum where I am sharing and I am learning, I am getting stimulated. But I come back and experiment here. I do a lot of work here, and I feed this work to the professional body. And that's what happened also in network, much more in earlier years. Later, networks, academic contributions are totally reduced because now all practitioners came. Practitioners are more interested in sharing experience-based knowledge than classroom or research-generated knowledge and so on. So coming back to when I became president, I think there was Somnath and team tried to, because the ISABS was by a legal kind of a process. ISABS was closed for some time. I think the other society went to the court. ISISD went to somebody. I don't know the. They went to the court and frozen the accounts of ISABS and said that you can't conduct unless something is sorted out. I don't know again those politics. So I think ISABS, some people were struggling to take initiative, revive it and get this court thing sorted out. So finally I think about 83 or 84 they sorted it out. So Somnath became the executive director at the time, and he brought this to a level. They changed the constitution. From executive director, I think Uday was interim president for some time. From executive director, the new constitution created the position of a president. And then the entire process, what you see, a large part of today's constitution, barring whatever changes in the last 5-10 years we have made, came from a group that worked around that time, in 1985-86. During Somnath's time. In fact, Somnath's article gives some of those details and so on. So, in the new constitution, they had created a position of a president for 3 years. That was
which is what continues even now.
That was a program in which I started HRD network by the time. It was in its initial stages. And we also ran a program for a laboratory for training the trainers in civil service, in government. Natkani, Prayag, all of us were. I offered this on behalf of ISABS. Year before that, I offered HRD Facilitators Lab.
Okay.
So I was into ISABS to offer these kind of programs. The revived ISABS, the new ISABS. And then the constitution changed. That was when they elected me to be the president of Formative. So 2 years before I became president, I was going for the summer programs and running these kind of labs. So they said that, look, we were all, they for some reason, for whatever they thought, I think all of them had their turn. Maybe in the younger generation, I was coming up maybe and so. So when I became, that's a long story what we tell you, but if that interests you, I can tell you.
Please do, yes. Yeah, we have the time.
So what I think during my period, it's 2-3 things that I have done. I think we had, for some time, we had a major income tax problem because income tax department they said that you cannot be considered a not-for-profit organization. You are running your programs in 5-star hotels. So one of the tasks we had was to get the ATG and sort it out with them. Kirpal played a major role. He was treasurer and Deepankar was secretary. Arun Joshi was the dean. We didn't have so many deans.
So there was just
one dean, professional programs. So we were focusing on internship as usual. Plus we were also focusing on other kind of things. So the strategy that I said that was that, look, you cannot run ISABS with a community of 50-60 people. That used to be the, we must aim at a large number and let us announce low-cost BHPs. And for that we needed a low-cost place. We spotted Police Academy as the low-cost place. And I think they were charging us some 200-300 rupees per day. And we had some one Johri, who was a police officer who went through ISABS, and he was very helpful. He was a faculty there. He was helpful in giving us, getting us this.
I think that's his name mentioned. Yes.
The first time we had a large number of BHPs, and we invited Khandwala to train the trainer in creativity lab. And the house was so full there, we couldn't accommodate them. So Pradeep had to conduct his lab in a hotel in Hyderabad.
I see.
So that was, in my view, a breakthrough in ISABS. And followed by
this was which year?
1986.
86
or 87. One of those years. We had, that was the first year. And then after that we evolved a strategy that it is the chapters, ISABS is not meant to run a large number of labs, BHPs. Chapters should do BHPs. And therefore chapter should be empowered to do that, run as many as possible and send us more for a AHP or for internship program. That was the strategy. Decentralizing, passing it on.
The basic lab would get decentralized.
Yeah, decentralized. I mean, it's not that we'll refuse to do PHP because you need to do some of them so that the interns will get an opportunity and others will get an opportunity and so on. But
very interesting.
That's a strategy that we developed in and also spread, because we used to have a lot of debate. You are an applied behavioral science body or you are not a T group body, and therefore you should disseminate, you should get into, if not any other kind of a thing, more structured kind of experiences and so on. I mean, we used to do that. Structured labs, we worked with HRD network and ran a few HRD labs and things of that nature. So we collaborated with that. So that was the time. We have, I think, 3 years, 1 year in planning this, second year in police academy, third year we continued with that. And third year I was trying to develop an association with NTL. And trying to get them to recognize as an associate of NTL, which they did at some point of time.
Yeah, they did. I'm not sure when, but it has happened, yes.
But later, much more collaboration took place. Rolf was very much a supporter of all that we were doing, and so on.
So was Rolf also coming for ISABS events?
Rolf was coming. Whenever he was in the country, he would come and spend some time. He may not take a lab. I don't remember he's taking a lab. But he's all the time there, either for the 2-day conferences. In one conference, both Alexandra and Michael came. That was the time the ISABS was internally going through turmoil. That was the time when I just took over as president. Alexandra, I still remember Alexandra telling me, "Oh, TV, you are sitting on a volcano. How you are going to manage this? I don't know." Because there were internal differences within ISABS at that time. But I think all of the people who had differences were, in a way, my gurus or mentors and so on. So I mean, they
and
would
people you worked with very closely.
and our people, I mean, Somnath may say anything when it comes to, he will say, Venkatesh, no, let's not do this. And then I would say, no, Somnath, you change your view. I mean, you can discuss. Uday would normally not interfere, would let you do. So I think I had, and then the younger generation became active. Deepankar, Kirpal Singh, and Patsarthi. Arun Joshi, of course, Arun Joshi was very difficult to get. He was in the top of his career. Pratik Roy. Uma Jain was the dean towards the end of my tenure. So I think that was fun and that was wonderful. Then Akhauri came after my time. Akhauri became the president. The only thing that disappointed me was I was invited by somebody in Mexico for an education program. I went out of way to spend my own money to say on May I am going to go to NTL because we started discussing a number of things. Let me visit. I now visited NTL. So I thought that let me talk to them what's going on and how far the collaboration has come. And I visited, discussed, but I can't commit anything on behalf of ISABS. I returned back and then somebody told me that, when were you in NTL? I said, I'm such and such. Akhauri was in NTL around the time. Akhauri was in Washington around the time. I said, well, did he visit NTL? No, I don't think he visited. I said, what is this nonsense? You can't be in Washington and not visit NTL and be the president of ISABS.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what I use it to say, but I never shared this because Akhauri must have had his own compulsions. I think after that I got so involved with network and so many other things, Academy of HRD.
Right.
So I think to me, ISABS, if I am invited, I will go and run a lab. If I am not, then on my own initiative, unless I have something to offer, which I did when I came up with a 360 based lab. I floated that extension lab, I floated that. Paul ceremony was. So I think 2 or 3 different years post 2000 I attended to run this 360 based lab. Our current president was one of the participants. Atul was in one of the labs. Uday and I ran 360 based lab.
Oh, I see.
So Atul was there. After that I never met him.
Yeah, Atul comes for ERI. He is in that group of facilitators. So when Niharika invites him and if he is able to, then he comes.
So I talked a lot, gave you some glimpses of history.
Yes. So I have one last question. Now, today you see ISABS from a distance, really. You're not very much involved in it. So how do you see ISABS now, today?
The positive side of it is, I think if you look at what happened to other bodies, they split further, something happened. One wish that it did not happen. There was one body, ISLC, which ISABS stood the test of time. And I think you are continuing with the traditions, like you can do a PHP, AHP, you have an internship, you have people doing, and you have decentralized, I think, nowadays. And I think I'm very happy to see so many programs being done and so on. That is on the positive side. On the other side, where I wish, ISABS has moved, I would like to call ISABS as a organization with phenomenal potential and missed lots and lots of opportunities. I think today ISABS should have been far ahead of NTL for the kind of opportunity this country offered, the kind of issues that have emerged, and the kind of talent we have had. A professional body, if it is a real applied behavioral sciences, could have run a journal or could have contributed to jobs and Journal of Applied Behavioral Science and many other things. We tried to think in that direction, but I think it didn't go anywhere. It was 86, 87, 88, those periods I think it. So to me, ISABS is continuing and probably reasonably doing well. On a 10-point scale, if 10 is the potential, probably 2 I would give it a rating.
Oh, okay.
Today you are at 2. You could have been 10. because that is the, I mean, you could have in a global body went into all the other kind of countries. What are the reasons? I mean, reasons can be, any organization can be far better than what it is. That applies to IIMs, applies to everyone. I think there is always scope for improvement. I think leadership is something.
Okay.
And this is also a reflection of what is happening in the academic field. Academics themselves have got largely commercialized. Innovations have, there are a lot of consultants have entered into the
That's true. That's true. And ISABS also, a lot of consultants
have entered into the chair. It's not bad. It would have been used in a positive way if the consultants are research minded. They had writing skills. They participate in conferences. They taught in these academic institutions. Then it would have been a different story. But unfortunately, I was just thinking this morning. When your leadership, when you talk of leadership, I classify leaders as, I mean, you can have XY continuum. On one continuum, you can say a ISABS leader is highly process driven versus a highly task driven.
Right.
There are probably some leaders who are only process driven and will sacrifice task for the process.
Yes.
So when some of the leaders have become extremely process oriented, forget the task, they are only, ultimately it amounts to politicizing. Now there may be some people who are highly task driven and don't care about the process, they rub the people on the wrong side.
True.
So maybe we had both these kinds rather than the mixture. It's very difficult to be a balanced person. You are process driven and live the process and never forget the task. And the task is to build a professional body.
And high on both.
High on both, yes. And also with a concern for institution building. Not a concern for I am president, I should finish my term, I should do a good job. That's only a small part of it. More, how do I build this institution? How do I include people? I mean, if you think that way, it becomes more or less a full-time job. That these people in IIMs did that. That's why I said it looks as though that is their first job rather than the institutions and so on. Because they saw the integration between ISABS and what they are teaching. But today, if you are a consultant, you will find it hard to integrate this. Because you are either earning your livelihood or you are doing the process, and if you are using process as earning your livelihood, there are all kinds of other issues that come into picture.
True, there's too much contamination that can happen.
So I think the real applied behavioral science contributions have not come from ISABS. That's disappointing.
Could have been much more.
Like for example, I keep saying this, I acknowledge ISABS for starting the what Americans call as 360. Much before they started, I started the program as soon as I returned from IIM. I said ISABS believes in feedback from strangers. How we conduct stranger labs. And then I started raising the question: why do you have to? You don't trust your colleagues at all, that you have to go to a stranger lab and get a feedback from them. Please learn to trust your colleagues. So that is where 360 feedback, get feedback from your people who are working with you. So these are contracts, and I have written articles about it, T group and 360 feedback, comparing this and so on. Now if anyone picks up from ISABS, you can build a whole lot of theory around this.
Which unfortunately has not happened.
Our assessment centers, so many developments. So research, innovations, new developments in T group theory or whatever or applications in OD. OD is a good thing that
that ODCP is a good program.
Those kind of things could have been far higher. I'm being conservative in putting 2 on a 10-point scale because I see a phenomenal scope.
So
maybe someone can get it.
Maybe sometime it will happen. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I hope.
Thank you very much.
We inspired. Time has
yes, time is. We are at 10, and since you have a flight to catch.
I hope this is of some use.
Thank you.